Hello. Here's a picture that's tragically very familiar to all of us. It's a picture taken in the death camp of Auschwitz in Poland during World War II of Jewish children standing behind the barbed wire. And I'm just going to pull back a little bit. And again, another photograph that again is tragically all too familiar to us, which is the photograph of the railway line which is taking you to Auschwitz, Birkenau, the famous gatehouse. And there is that term that we all need to know and must never forget, the final solution to the Jewish problem of 1942 to 45. In fact, the term is so widely used now, it's often misunderstood. And as a GCSE History student who is quite likely to have to write about this, it's important that you understand exactly what the final solution was. Okay, so this podcast is about the solution to the Jewish problem. Just going to pull back a little bit and present this as a timeline. So there we've got the final solution, and again just really highlighting the dates 1942 to 45, and you can see I put that in the timeline. The final solution as you think of it, as we all tend to think of it nowadays, which was to exterminate the Jews, death camps, was a decision that was made definitely by the beginning of 1942 at the so-called Wannsee Conference in Berlin. We definitely know that the decision was made at that particular point in time. But what I'm going to do here is just pull back along that timeline a little bit, and let's go back in time. And here we've got that key year 1939, which I've drawn a box around, because that is what we call the turning point. It is obviously the year that World War II began. Britain declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September 1939, which was 2 days after the Germans invaded Poland. Now, as you can see, the decision to exterminate the Jews of Europe was made sometime between 1939 and 1941. So within the timeline there, that's when the decision was made, somewhere between those two dates. So be very careful again when you write about this, because we often get students who will actually say, oh, Hitler wanted to murder the Jews and that was something he had always wanted to do and that he had always planned to do. Most historians nowadays would disagree with that and would say that it wasn't really until probably 1941 or even 1942 that the decision to exterminate was made. So again, just pulling back a little bit, I put that question mark above because that was that question mark there represents disagreement amongst historians, debate. It is an area of debate amongst historians. So continuing our backward journey then, and let's go before 1939. And if then the solution to exterminate the Jews was not made until 1941 or even the beginning of 1942, what exactly was the solution before 1939, before that turning point year, before World War II began? And the solution was forced emigration. Okay, again, most historians would now agree on this, that until the outbreak of World War II, Hitler's so-called final solution was not to murder the Jews. It was to empty Germany of the Jewish people. So here's a map, and we're going back even further in time now to the year 1933, which of course was the year that Hitler became leader of Germany. So you can see where Germany is. Germany on the map is in blue there. So just zooming in, there's a picture of a typical Jewish family. I think it's always important to visualise. We're talking about real people here. Okay. Well, how many Jews were there in Germany? Let's just make sure we're clear about that one. The German Jewish population in 1933 was 565,000. That's when Hitler came to power. And that's obviously quite a lot. That's about 6 times that would fill Wembley Stadium, for example. But bear in mind that Germany's whole population was nearly 60 million people. So we're actually talking about only 1% of the German population were Jews. Okay, so they were a relative minority of the German people in 1933. Okay, now in previous podcasts we've already covered. I'm not going to backtrack. For the first 5 years, Hitler's policy was effectively to reduce Jews to second-class citizens, okay, to make their life as difficult as possible, ultimately because he wanted the German Jews to get out of Germany. He wanted them to emigrate. He wanted them to effectively leave Germany and go elsewhere, okay, to empty the country of the Jews. So I'm just going to show you again another interesting map. This map, okay, shows you can see there's Germany in the middle of Europe, and it shows you where the Jews were going. So those 565,000 Jews by 1938, certainly by Kristallnacht, Reich Kristallnacht, which we did in the last podcast, which was that real sort of turning point where for the first time there was organised violence against the Jews. Many of those 565,000 had emigrated before Kristallnacht, but it certainly stepped up from late 1938 and moving into 1939 onwards. There was a significant increase in emigration, Jews trying to get out of Germany to set up lives elsewhere. Where did they go? Okay, well, interesting, this one. So you look at, for example, England, 52,000, okay. By far the biggest destination was the USA, 102,000 of them, okay, and so on and so forth. 30,000 went to France. Various destinations. 25,000 of them went to Poland. So you've got all of the figures on there for you to look at in your own time, okay. There were some, 33,000 of them, zooming down here, who actually went to Palestine, which of course was their original homeland, okay. But remember, in those days there was no Jewish nation. The nation of Israel was created after World War II, so 33,400 there. Okay, so those are the destinations. Now, what exactly did this mean? Again, back to our map. So 1933, we said there were about 565,000. This map now shows you 1938, the year of Kristallnacht. Okay, and as you can see, again, if we zoom in, what's actually happened to the German Jewish population? It's now reduced to 280,000. So it is basically halved. So approximately half of Germany's Jews had left Germany by 1938. Only 280,000 left, which again seems like a big number, but it's actually 0.5% of the German population. However, this is the problem. In previous podcasts, and again, I'm not going to take you through this, as you know, Hitler wanted to expand Germany's frontiers eastwards, and that happened bit by bit from 1938 onwards. So if you just imagine, I'll use a different colour here, but if you basically, what I'll do here is I'll draw a line around Germany, okay, and I'll use red to indicate that here's the border of Germany. And remember, Germany was separated into two. Blue is Germany, that's East Prussia, physically separated with the Polish corridor in between. Now, in March 1938, Germany invaded Austria. Okay, so Austria became part of Germany. And there were a couple of 100,000 Jews living in Austria. Then, in October 1938, Germany invaded the Sudetenland, part of Czechoslovakia. Okay, now the Sudetenland was the border region of Czechoslovakia, and so if I just mark where that was, that's the border region. So effectively, filling it in, Germany's frontiers move forwards to incorporate that part of Czechoslovakia, and of course I'll do Austria as well. Austria had been incorporated there. Okay, so Germany's frontiers are expanding. Red represents the areas of expansion. Then, in March 1939, Germany invaded what we call the rump of Czechoslovakia, that was the bit in the middle. Okay, this bit. So that was incorporated. It became what was called a protectorate. So again, just to expand Germany's frontiers, then effectively incorporated that part of Czechoslovakia. Okay, and then of course in September 1939 Germany attacked Poland, okay, which marked the beginning of World War II, and Germany's frontiers then expanded to there. So all of that was added to Germany. So effectively Germany was expanding. Now when she invaded Poland, there were 3 million Jews living inside Poland. So the point I'm basically working towards here is that as she expanded eastwards, she absorbed more and more Jews into the German homeland. More than 200,000 Austrians, more than 300,000 Czech Jews, 3 million Polish Jews. There's the map that shows Germany as it was at that particular point, okay, in 1940, after Poland had been invaded. So again, just sort of zooming in, and grey represents the Germany by that point. And of course, what then happened in 1941 is Germany attacked the Soviet Union with the objective of defeating the Soviet Union, but reaching Moscow, which is the capital there. Now again, hugely successful invasion of the Soviet Union for the first few months, okay, because by December 1941, effectively Germany had expanded her frontiers to just outside Moscow. So again, all of that territory up to that line there was now added to Germany. Approximately 2 to 3 million more Jews in the occupied territory, Russian Jews, were added. So as we get to the end of 1941, and again a very, very powerful map here, this map shows you the extent of German-occupied Europe by the end of 1941. So all of the areas which I've just shown you on the previous slide, so you can sort of see there's Germany, just marking it here. In fact, I'll use a different colour. There's Germany, the original borders of Germany as it was before the beginning, or before 1938. Austria added, Czechoslovakia added, Poland added, and then Russia added up to there. Other territories in red: France was invaded, Belgium and Holland were invaded, Denmark was invaded, Norway was invaded, and other territories were allied states to Germany. All had Jewish population. So the Jewish problem, the solution of which was emigration, was no longer a viable solution to that particular problem by the end of 1941. A different solution had to be found, because Germany's Jewish population was not shrinking, it was getting larger. And what we'll do is we'll look at how during this period Hitler moved towards a different solution, the solution of extermination. We'll look at in the next podcast. Thank you.